Hey guys, what's up? In today's video, I want to try something slightly different. I want to make a video about some obscure things that I find on the internet. Because it happens all the time, you browse around and you find these really weird things. And I'm not talking about porn. But I want to talk about the phenomenon of targeted individuals and gang stalking today. So if you type in targeted individuals into Google, then you get a lot of responses. You can see it's a mass phenomenon. A lot of people claim that they are affected by this, thousands of them. And there are two documentaries on Vice, one that is more about gang stalking and one that is a little bit more about the targeted individual community. So I really recommend you to watch both of those because they do give you quite a nice window into what is going on in these people's worlds. So what is it? I'm gonna quickly read out this description down here because I think that describes it rather well. Recently, thousands of people around the world are claiming to be having the exact same terrifying experiences. They all report the same symptoms: hearing operator voices in their heads, suffering from electronic torture, and being subject to organized stalking. They call themselves targeted individuals. Now, these are people who claim that some shady organization, obviously nobody knows who exactly they are, puts implants in their heads that observe their thoughts, that affect their thoughts, that put voices in people's head, that can even move their bodies, that can make you go places even you don't want to go. So it's a really scary scenario. And let me just kind of put this disclaimer out here before I get deeper into this, because I don't want to judge these people. I completely believe that what these people experience is real for them, okay? These people are hearing voices in their head. These people are being physically constrained to go somewhere, or they feel that their body is affected by some external force. I don't doubt for a second that that is their reality, right? However, the question is, where does this come from? Does an organization put effort into monitoring these individuals? Well, let's look into it a little bit deeper before we judge. I just want to say I don't want to make a video in which I just ridicule these people, because it's easy to ridicule, right? You can easily finger point at it. But nonetheless, I want to share my honest opinion towards the end of the video. So let's look into it a little bit deeper. I was Googling around and I found this girl, Bella. It's a YouTube channel. I'll link it down in the description. You can go have a look. Really lovely girl, nice videos. And she talks about her experiences of being a targeted individual. And a few things that she said in her video are really interesting to me. Like, for example, she said, they also seem to monitor me for a very long time. These people speak about inheriting agents that have already observed your mother, all right? And then they observe you now. And she said that this monitoring of her is going so far back that recently the people who observe her were referring to something that happened a long time ago. Apparently she was dancing with a soldier somewhere at an event, and they were referring to that. The voices in her head were referring to that moment that is already a long time in the past, right? And if that happens, I mean, honestly, okay, think about this from a logical perspective just for a second. Who would be interested in looking at your life? I mean, I don't want to judge Bella. I'm sure her life is interesting and exciting and all that. Don't get me wrong. That's not what it's about. But like, for my part, if you would observe my life, it's just boring. Most of it is just really boring and mundane, and that's just the reality for most people. There is no reason to observe you. You know what I mean? There's no reason to go through the effort of having someone sitting there being paid 24 hours a day, adjusting levels on electronic torture and putting voices in your head. It just makes no sense. This is stuff that's maybe done to people who carry really valuable information, right? If a government would go through a procedure like this, I'm assuming this obviously, but if they would go through the effort of trying to extract information or influence individuals in that manner that you describe, then there must be a good reason for it, right? They need to have a good reason. They want important information that can save lives or give you a military benefit or whatever it is. Most of these people that you see in these documentaries and in these YouTube videos, actually all of them, not most, I haven't seen any exception, are just random people, average people. Their life is not interesting enough to be observed all the time. right? And when Bella tells the story here that they are referring to some event where she was dancing with this soldier a long time ago, think about, is this something that's of importance to the government, or is that something that's maybe of importance to you, right? Is that something that maybe is stuck in your subconscious memory, maybe something that was for you a nice moment or a memorable moment that is now washed back up through your subconscious and put into these voices, right? It makes, in my opinion, in my humble opinion, really, again, I don't want to judge these people, and I don't know the answer, but in my humble opinion, I just think this is so clearly a construct of the human mind, right? If you learn a little bit about the human mind, I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a trained doctor or anything, but if you know about the human mind and how it works and what it can create, right, and how it can really shape your reality around you and how you perceive it, then all these descriptions, and especially cases like the story with the soldier, is just evidence that this is your mind playing tricks on you and not some external force affecting your life, right? And this thought, when I was watching the documentaries, is just going like a red thread through all these documentaries, through all this stuff. When they present their evidence, whatever they do, it always feels like it's not really convincing. It could absolutely also be a construct of your mind. So that's kind of my take on it. But then you stumble across really interesting other aspects, right? For example, I found this tweet just looking at hashtag targeted individuals on Twitter, and there's this guy who calls himself extremely targeted, Occupy Central CA, or California probably, and he says, I know what it is that creates targeted individuals, and I know how most of it works. A journalist needs to contact me soon. I flew to my home city, and they handed me plenty of information, all through voices in the head. Sounds nutty, but hey, hashtag radio. Right. Look, you don't need to be a radio engineer or anything to know that this is not how it works. Just because a radio is able to pick up waves and amplify them into sound doesn't mean your head can do this too. And it also doesn't mean that a tiny implant in your head, is at nanotechnology size or whatever, is able to create that sound in your head or pick up waves like this. It just makes no sense. Also, radio waves go out and they are picked up by thousands. It's not that every household receives a different radio wave. If you want to do that, if I'm a targeted individual and my neighbor is one as well, then they would need to radio wave thoughts into my head and his head, and we're just like 100 meters apart, right? So you need technology that radiates different waves in different heads at different... It just makes no sense. Anyway, This lady replied, who's obviously also a targeted individual, Palm Beach TI. TI stands for targeted individual. She says, or she found this interesting, this page where she says, Brain Initiative, next generation invasive devices for recording and modulation of the human central nervous system. And she gives this link to grants.gov, which is apparently a website, an American website where you can apply for science grants for funding for your project. So if you go to that website and you search it, that is actually an entry here. So it says Brain Initiative, clinical studies to advance next generation invasive devices for recording and modulation in the human central nervous system. And you're like, oh my God, this is all the proof I need, right? This shit is proven. 100% shit is real, targeted individuals, yada yada. Now you can click that. Application, and if you go down and you read a little bit into it, then you find what it's actually about. So what do we say here? Let me just find it. It's encourage investigators to pursue a small clinical trial to obtain critical information necessary to advance recording and or stimulating devices to treat central nervous system disorders and better understand the human brain. Now you have to know, implants in your brain are often used to combat diseases, to work against diseases, like for instance Parkinson's disease can really be helped with implants in your head that give electrical shocks and kind of even out the misalignment of electricity in your brain, whatever exactly how it works, I have no idea. But if you read this, it suddenly makes sense, right? But it just feels to me like a lot of these people, they find this this one line on Twitter or on this grants.gov, and they're like, oh, that's all the proof I need. We don't need to look into this anymore. This is evidence. There's the government funding these horrible projects where they try to implant our brains. I mean, honestly, guys, this is just crazy sad, isn't it? It's just sad because there are so many people out there who probably could be helped. I know that things like schizophrenia can be really tricky, and not everyone can be medicated in a way that really helps them. Either you really have a massive backlash on the medication where you just don't feel well all the time, or the medication doesn't really help and you do feel physically well. So it's always a problem, and I also understand that it's hard to accept that. But to me, to believe that some shady organization, or for me to believe that my life would be important enough for someone to sit in a room all day and observe it, right? It's like this FBI agent meme. It's ridiculous, you know. Nobody would want to do this. I don't claim there's no surveillance, right? We've all seen the Snowden reveals, and we all have our phones right in front of us on the table, right? And there's a microphone on it and a camera. And I'm not saying that these things cannot potentially be bugged or accessed with software from external sources. But to think that someone or that your life is so interesting and important that people would monitor you and, you know, expose you to horrible torture and do these, it just makes no sense. It makes much more sense if you look a little bit into neurology, that your brain is a very, very powerful computer, basically, that has a lot of power over your body. And this is just some form of your brain playing tricks on you. This is my opinion. Guys, again, I don't want to judge these people. I don't want to say this is the truth and ridicule them and point my finger at them. This is what I think. And I think I'm pretty aligned with a lot of medical doctors that see these things all the time, these stories popping up. However, if you feel like I mistreated you guys, and if you feel you're a targeted individual and you feel this was a horrible representation of your condition, then feel free to get in touch. Feel free to leave me a comment. I'll even be happy to have a chat with you guys on this channel. I find this a very interesting topic, and I'd be happy if someone is willing to to chat to some of you on the channel and do a little bit of an interview, kind of. So let me know what you think, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you found it a little bit interesting. If you did, leave me a like, share the video, subscribe to the channel. Do all these things. Otherwise, take care, and I'll see you next time. I'm out. Bye.